Um, so definitely try to get a ward into that bush as he's walking into it. And yeah, you want to know if they're coming down from mid lane when you're chasing like that, but if you're so scared that they're coming down from mid lane that you think it's absolutely essential that you place that ward, even more essential than that you put a ward into this bush as your carry's walking into it, then you guys shouldn't be aggressing that way anyway, and you should ping your carry to fall back. And again, you have a basically perfect zone right now. They're like hardly even getting any XP, so Kog'Maw really shouldn't be pushing lean right now. And like you can just tell them that, like if you have a really good zone going on and you really just want to be able to continue zoning, then just tell him to stop pushing. It's definitely good for you to tank tower for your carry. Like if your carry wants to dive tower and you're super tanky, you definitely want to tank for him. Since you are so dominant right now, so okay, let's see. Tryndamere is losing a little bit, and Brand is a bit behind Jace, but it's not like he's losing that hard. His tower is lower, but basically the point is that you don't have a single lane that's feeding. So you don't really need to go 100% rescue another lane. And you guys are winning your lane really, really hard. So there's not so much of a reason for you to push this tower, because Kog'Maw and Vayne both scale really well in the late game. So don't make Kog'Maw go not get CS for a long time while Vayne is allowed to free farm. And Wukong isn't letting Vayne free farm, he's just by pushing this lane, but that's really dumb on Wukong's part. He should absolutely only be last hitting minions there, so that Vayne's going to be able to free farm under tower. That's like, or not under tower, just slightly in front of tower. That's really what she wants to be able to do, is just get all of that free farm. So I wouldn't have pushed the tower this early. And it looks like she still would have had her freeze, maybe be able to go on here if Wukong hadn't come and messed that up for her. But anyway, at this point, you're gonna just want to go, like, soak up this last bit of XP maybe, but pretty much you should just be going mid or top. Once the tower is down, your carry is really, really far ahead, so he's just gonna be able to CS, no problem, and Vayne and Shen are probably not gonna be able to kill him. So just have presence on the map. You being balling at this point is basically you not really being a part of your team at all, because like you don't offer that much extra. Like their balling isn't really worth gold anymore. But on the other hand, you really shouldn't be pushed out this far. Like that was really, really dangerous to be pushed out this far. You want to have a ward and try, and just like they came from like basically where you didn't have vision, and turns out that you could fight them, but if they had, like, they didn't exhaust Kog'Maw. If they had exhausted Kog'Maw and Wukong had gotten the CC down on Kog'Maw earlier, and Vayne had ulted and everything, then it's likely that they would have been able to kill Kog'Maw. So basically, like, it's not really all that safe for you to be standing this far into their jungle, leaning at this tower when you have absolutely no vision. Also, so your E doesn't hit the Wukong clone, but if it had hit, you likely would have died under tower there, because Shen would have taunted you under tower. And I don't really think that Kog'Maw has enough damage, even as fed as he is, to kill them before the tower kills you. Exhaust Jace. If your exhaust, okay, your exhaust isn't up. If your exhaust is up, you should have exhausted Jace there. Yeah, that was unfortunate that Jace had his knockback to interrupt the gap close. Or, well, actually, I don't know. With Mummy ult down, it's unlikely that you would have been able to get the kill there. Okay, so you're going to want to get your ruby sites done really soon. These 3 HP pots that you're holding onto you really don't need, so just buy a ruby crystal, and then you're roaming the map enough that you definitely want to be able to have 3 wards at a time. And again, you take a really long time to buy, just try to get out of the shop as fast as possible. If you're having a hard time with the shop, then change your recommended items. You can basically, you can put whatever you want into your recommended items. You can have 6 at a time show up in I think 5 different categories. So that's 30 items that can show up just on the left panel in your recommended items. And that makes it, for the most part, you have everything that you could possibly want for the entire game. This fight looks like it's definitely going to be over by the time that you get there, so you can just go mid and try to push this tower. So I guess if you want to like clear these cubes, it's okay, but probably you should just go mid because you're not going to get here in time to do anything. That's a good idea when you're walking out of base. You should just put your screen to wherever you're walking towards so that you understand what cooldowns you have to have ready. Like, do you need to flash ult? Do you need to flash exhaust or something like that? If you're Soraka, do you need to flash heal? When you're taking dragon, a better place to ward is right here, in this bush. Yeah, so you want to put it right in this bush, so that you can see them coming around the corner. And if you have a pink ward, this is a really good place to pink ward. So like over here, you still have some warning of them coming, but not nearly as much as if they were coming over here. And if they did have dragon warded, which I guess you had a pink ward, so that you knew that they didn't have dragon warded, but in general, if they do have dragon warded, you don't want them to be able to jump over into the wall and steal it without you seeing them coming. So if you put the ward right here in this bush, then that allows you to see them in advance, and it makes that a lot less likely to happen. Because you'll know to anticipate it, and so then you can suddenly stop doing damage to dragon right before it gets into smite range, things like that. And again, you don't need to be bot this late. A lot of supports just, like, your default is to go bot lane because that's where you lane with your carry, but after laning is over, you really want to have more presence on the map than just being in bot lane all the time. So if your carry needs you bot because they're still laning past the first turret or something like that, then you can stay bot. Or if your carry is really far behind and can't 1 versus 1 their carry, and you really just want them to farm, and the rest of your team is doing okay, so they can 3 versus 4 under tower if necessary, times like that, then it's totally fine for you to stay bot. But if your carry doesn't need you bot, you should not be the first support to go bot. Like, if their support is roaming and your carry is bot, don't rotate bot until their support comes bot. Again, leading with your ult is really risky. It's very, very easy to dodge. So there, like, you led him with it, so if he had continued walking forward, he would have been right in the middle of it. But it's easy enough to dodge even if they're standing still. So if you're leading with it and you predicted them wrong, then you basically have no chance of hitting it. So just it's not really a good idea to have your ult be the very first CC that you apply on them, unless it's for some reason it's really easy to lead them. Like if they're running away from you and you flash ult, that's really easy to lead. But if you're just trying to predict where they're moving because they're randomly walking around in the middle of the lane, it's going to be really hard for you to be able to hit them with ult. So if your carry is getting jumped on by a Jax, and you really, really need to CC Jax, it's okay for you to just flash in Q, instead of taking the time for the E to leash you all the way to Jax. So like it ended up being okay because Kog'Maw is so big, but if Jax were slightly bigger relative to Kog'Maw, like the extra second is really not good. So especially like Kog'Maw doesn't have a reposition of his own, you really need to get the CC onto Jax immediately. So flashing and queuing is okay. Also, you really need your Sight Stone by now, or your Ruby Sight Stone. You really want that by now because you want a red crystal anyway because you want to be tankier. So like the red crystal is a very good purchase on you, and it's not really wasting any money to get a red crystal. And then it's 50 gold extra to upgrade your Ruby Sight Stone basically because you get one ward for 125 gold by combining them, and so that's like you're losing an efficiency of 50 gold, which is almost nothing this late into the game. Yeah, again, work on hitting your skill shots. The ult onto Jace was, in my opinion, not a skill shot that you should have attempted. But then the E onto whoever was diving Kog'Maw, like that one absolutely should have been able to hit. And then you can E to snare, yeah. I think if you had queued slightly earlier, like immediately after it came off cooldown, you might have been able to get him. And turn your W on when you're tanking turret like this. Yeah, you shouldn't have turned around to hit the turret a couple more times. You should have realized that you were just about to die to turret if you did that. So I don't know if you thought that you had Diagro turret but hadn't actually or what. But like that was a totally fine dive. You could have W'd to reduce the turret's damage a little bit earlier. But as it was, you were standing basically right over here when you were still alive from the rest of the damage that the turret took, and then you didn't Diagro and you walked back in, and so you ended up dying to turret when you could have survived.
Blue team has slain the dragon.
I'd finish your Shurelya's. You have 550 gold. Shurelya's is one of the best support items in the game. Okay, so again, you really want this ward to be right here in between the two signposts so that you can see every ward inside of the pit. Because right now if they had a green ward, like basically anywhere in this part of the vision, you wouldn't be able to see it at all. But yeah, okay, so Amumu is a really good long-range initiate, and your ult is also a really good long-range follow-up initiate. By that I mean Amumu bandages in ult, and then you put your ult down when the Mummiel is about to end. So that gives a pretty wide opportunity for the rest of your team to catch up. But they can start doing damage even earlier just from Mummy ult if you have the Shurelya's. And then on the other hand, like if they have an engage on you, like you guys are pretty far ahead right now, but it's not like the game is definitely not over yet. So if they get a really good engage on you, like Wukong, or if Shen gets a taunt onto Kog'Maw, and then Wukong chains that with a knockup, Jack should be able to just kill Kog'Maw really, really effectively. So to counteract the Jace acceleration gate though, you want to have a Shurelya's of your own. So like in this matchup in particular, like I think pretty much every game you want to get a Shurelya's. Excuse me, but like with these team comps in particular, you definitely want to have Shurelya's. Basically, whenever you have part of your team has a really strong gap closer and the rest of your team doesn't, that's when you need to have Shurelya's. So like, if your carry was an Ezreal and your mid was say a Diana or a Katarina, it would be less important that you have a Shurelya's because everyone has gap closers. But Because your Brand and your Kog'Maw don't have gap closers, but you and Amumu and to some extent Tryndamere do have gap closers, you really do want that Trillia's really soon.